Over the years, tech reviews have grown massively in their popularity here on YouTube, leading many creators of these channels to have an outsized effect on consumer purchasing decisions when it comes time to purchase a new phone or other electronic devices. And that's something that many of the biggest tech companies out there have definitely come to realize. So much so that many of these tech channels get sent free products and might even get paid to make a video reviewing it for their channel. But behind the scenes, companies like Apple have gone a step further in deepening their ties with tech creators by allowing a select few to release product reviews prior to the official release date of their flagship products. It's become almost a routine at this point. Take the iPhone 13 back in 2021, for instance. Apple released the iPhone 13 to the general public on September 24th, but on September 21st, a bunch of big-name tech YouTubers released in-depth reviews on the product. And a year earlier, back in 2020, the same thing happened for the iPhone 12, when the official release date was slated for October 23rd, but on October 20th, what do you know? A host of big-name tech channels once again released early product reviews. It seems sort of strange, right? I mean, why would a behemoth in the tech business like Apple of all people, and their super smart marketing gurus over in Cupertino, California, entrust a group of YouTubers so much? It kind of makes you scratch your head, right? Well, today's video is going to shed some light on the subject and uncover how the psychological effect of these marketing tactics enable Apple to control the spread of information within its ecosystem and strengthen its grips on the minds and wallets of average consumers like you and I. But first, let's make sure we understand the basic mechanics of how consumer purchasing decisions are formed. Let's assume we're in the market for a new phone. Our decision of which phone to buy can be based on two factors. The first of which is our actual experience using the phone. So this relates to basic things like, did the phone turn on when I pressed the power button? Did the phone's battery last for an extended period of time before dying? Does the phone have the capability that allow me to binge watch my favorite TV shows while I totally procrastinate on the rest of my real-world commitments? You know, the important things in life. But besides these concerns about the functionality and user experience, we base our purchasing decision on one other factor, which is most commonly overlooked. And that is the opinion that those around us have on the item we're considering purchasing. Now, at first, this seems somewhat strange. I mean, why would someone rely on other people for their own opinion? But in reality, this has been proven throughout the psychological literature, so much so that there's even a dedicated word to describe this theory called the social learning theory. Social learning theory was first theorized by this chap, Albert Bandura, a professor out of Stanford University, who throughout his research described social learning theory as behavior learned symbolically through central processing of response information before it is performed. Or in other words, he argues that new behaviors can be acquired by observing and imitating others. It's the same reason that we buy athletic shoes that we see being worn by athletes that we admire. It's not only because we want to emulate them, but it's because we want to fit in with the crowd, the same way that we tend to buy the same type of phone that our friends have. I mean, can you imagine being that one person whose messages pop up as green in the group chat instead of blue? Ugh, not a good look. So now that we've understood how consumers make purchasing decisions on a micro basis, let's consider what this looks like on a more macro perspective once we add multiple consumers into the mix. Let's imagine the new iPhone just came out. Now with all Apple releases, there's always those die-hard Apple fanboys who buy literally anything that has an Apple logo on it, right? They're pretty much assuming that the product will be amazing, so they forego the opportunity to test it out and just buy it because it's Apple and, well, Apple equals cool. Let's say that these three here represent those hardcore fanboys. But then a fourth person comes along who isn't necessarily a die-hard fanboy, but they like Apple products. They want to upgrade their old iPhone to the newest one, and hearing these three fanboys rave about the new iPhone, they think, hey, it must be worth an upgrade, so they go out and buy it too. And then along comes a friend of this person, and this fifth person, hearing that their friend just ordered the new iPhone, starts to think, hey, maybe I need an iPhone too, and if these four other people got it, then it must be an awesome iPhone, so I better go buy it too. And then a sixth person comes along, and yeah, you guessed it, they think, hey, if these five other people bought it, then maybe I should too. And then a seventh person comes along, and then an eighth person comes along. And this process repeats over and over again, following a process that behavioral economists call an information cascade. This phenomenon was discussed in a 1993 paper by three academics from UCLA, in which, quote, it is optimal for an individual, having observed the action of those ahead of him, to follow the behavior of the preceding individual without regard for his own information. In fact, later in 1995, Robert Shiller would expand on this idea, going on to win the Nobel Peace Prize in economics based on work related to this topic. But what does this phenomenon of an information cascade tell us, and why is it relevant? Well, it tells us that the first few initial opinions formed about a given product like the new iPhone, are really important because all future opinions will be based indirectly on them. So if you want to control the narrative around a product launch, you have to ensure that as much attention as possible is paid to the first few people who get the product and the amazing impression that they had with it. But if you think about it, Apple has been doing this for years. Remember back in the day before online shopping wasn't quite as popular as it is today? People would literally camp out for days outside of the Apple store just to make sure that they could get their hands on the new iPhone. And Apple loved this. They even issued press releases encouraging people to do so in order to get their hands on the product. Can you imagine a better form of marketing than people literally waiting outside your store to give you $1,000 for your product? I mean, there's a reason that CEO Tim Cook would show up on release date to surprise customers, waiting in line at some stores with cameras at the ready to film the excited shoppers as they jump up and down for joy when it's their turn to buy the new iPhone. So as you can see, Apple has masterfully controlled the narrative around its product launches for years. But what happens when Apple can no longer fully control this narrative? What happens when people start ordering their iPhones online instead of waiting at the store on release date? And even worse, what happens when a couple of negative reviews on Apple's new iPhone pop up on YouTube on the same day or shortly after the new iPhones are released to the public? With the unbelievable speed with which information gets disseminated on sites like YouTube, all it takes would be for a few tech channels with big enough audiences to post a negative review of one of Apple's new products quick enough after it's released to the public. And just like that, the foundation of the information cascade begins to weaken, which has knock-on effects down the chain as more and more potential consumers think, I'll just wait until next year's iPhone. This iPhone isn't really worth the upgrade. So what can Apple do to ensure that the foundation of the information cascade promotes a positive narrative around the product? Well, if you think about it, the one thing Apple controls in all this is access to their product. What if Apple could somehow manufacture a situation in which the only reviews that potential consumers can see are those that are handpicked by Apple's marketing team? And that's exactly what Apple's marketing team achieves by allowing a select group of YouTubers to create early product reviews. I mean, it's pretty genius if you think about it. They're essentially monopolizing the creation of public opinion. See, Apple recognizes that the first few impressions of a new product are so critical to its overall success that they create an artificial environment of sorts in which they can essentially handpick which YouTube channels get to make a review on their product. And since they coordinate all of these reviews and ensure that they all get released a few days before the products are released to the general public, they know for a fact that for those few days leading up to the release date, all consumers will hear about is how amazing Apple's new products are. But by now I'm pretty sure you're thinking, okay, but this only works as long as Apple can be certain that these early product reviews are positive, right? Well, theoretically, there's nothing to prohibit these reviews from saying anything bad about these early products. I mean, many of these channels have been very transparent in telling their audiences that Apple doesn't pay them to make these videos and that Apple doesn't have any direct control over what is said in their reviews. And while that might be the case, people often overlook the fact that there's a pretty huge incentive not to say anything bad. But in order to understand why that is, we need to consider the second-order effects of early product reviews, specifically the impact that they have on tech channels who don't get access to these products early. So put yourself in the shoes of your typical YouTube tech reviewer after the newest iPhone is released. Ideally, you'd love to create a review, but if you know that a bunch of other tech channels were given the iPhone before launch date and already posted their reviews to their channels before you could even place an order for one, why would you waste your time? All your potential viewers would have already watched these other channels and made up their mind on which iPhone to buy. I mean, think about it from the viewer's perspective. Why would they wait until your review gets released when they have a whole host of other reviews that they could watch instead? Don't believe me? Let's take the release of the iPhone 13 back in 2021, for example. Apple announced the device on September 14th at their virtual Apple event, with September 24th being the official release date to the general public. But guess what happened between September 14th and September 24th? Well, a whole host of channels published early product reviews on September 21st. Channels like MKBHD, iJustine, Dave2D, Mr. Who's the Boss, all posted early product reviews, which racked up millions of views in a matter of days, well before the product was ever released to the public. And what about other big-name tech channels like Linus Tech Tips and Unbox Therapy, who just the previous year when the iPhone 12 had been released had done their own reviews after the official product launch? Well, those channels were nowhere to be seen. Why? Well, why would they? They can be pretty sure that most of their subscribers are also subscribed to the other big tech channels that already got access to the iPhone 13 early and probably already watched those reviews. But there must have been some reviews that were made by YouTubers who weren't given early access, right? Sure, there was, but all of those videos performed pretty poorly. Take Jonathan Morrison, a channel with 2.6 million subscribers. He reviewed the iPhone after he picked it up on release date and released his review that same day on September 24th. How many views did he get? Just over 60,000. Ouch. And how about Carl Conrad, with over 700,000 subscribers? Same story here. His video got released on release date, just over 30,000 views. But what about the other channels that waited a few days after the official release date to do their reviews? Well, those performed just as poorly, if not worse. Take Pocket Now with 1.8 million subscribers. They got just over 50,000 views on their video. And Nick Ackerman with 700,000 subscribers? Similar story here, just under 30,000 views. And Digital Trends with 900,000 subscribers? Just over 50,000 views. And sure, you might be thinking, okay, well, maybe they didn't get as many views because they don't have as many subscribers as the MKBHDs and iJustines of the world. Well, take Rene Ritchie. He got early access to the iPhone 13 despite only having 300,000 subscribers and uploaded his review before the official release date, just like the other big-name tech reviewers. How many views did he get? 230,000. That's right, his review got more views than the previous 5 combined. So it's pretty clear that your view count has little to do with the number of subscribers you have, but more so how early you can post your review. And this dynamic is exactly how Apple ensures that the YouTubers who are approved to make early product reviews provide positive messaging around the new product. The fact of the matter is that new Apple products, especially flagship products like the iPhone, are huge news across the media. So having the opportunity to be one of the first YouTubers to show this product to the world equates to millions of views and millions of dollars of downstream ad revenue that can accompany future videos around this exclusive access. And you can be pretty sure that these YouTubers are aware that if they don't provide positive commentary in their reviews, they might not be on Apple's list next year when the time comes around to send out early products for review. So no, Apple doesn't force these YouTubers to make positive reviews, not because they can't, but because they don't need to. The incentives are so misaligned not to make a positive review. You honestly can't blame them. And what does this mean for the information cascade we spoke about earlier? Well, now there's literally no risk of reviews that have anything negative to say about a new product gaining any traction whatsoever with potential consumers. So in sum, Apple has essentially monopolized the market for reviews on their product by selecting a few lucky YouTubers to release reviews prior to the official release, ensuring that the first set of reviews that potential consumers are exposed to are positive, increasing the possibility of an information cascade which leads to increased purchases. But just like all markets in which a monopoly dominates, Apple is effectively stifling competition for tech reviews on YouTube. Because by reducing the probability that YouTube channels who make reviews on Apple products after the official release date will get views to a similar magnitude to those who did get to make their review before the release date, they eliminate the incentive to provide dissenting viewpoints in hopes of being added to next year's list of creators who can make early product reviews. And this has the added effect of ensuring that the information cascade, which fuels consumer purchases for the current product launch, is built on purely positive reviews. It sort of makes you think differently about Mr. Cook over there, huh? Well, that's it for today, folks. As always, if you like this video and want to learn more about the hidden psychology in today's business world, make sure you hit that subscribe button and let me know in the comments down below what you think about Apple's ability to monopolize the narrative around early product reviews.